Hello everybody. If you want to read all the stories in full, please go to www.steveuk.blog. Thank you. When you've listened to and read the story, if you liked it, please leave a meaningful comment with your thoughts and feelings about it. If you would like to have a story from a specific genre, say a mystery, a thriller, a horror, or a science fiction story, whichever, please leave a comment and let me know the type of thing you would like. Thank you. Short story 293, Steve and Bobby, A Silent Bond. Part 1, The Early Days. Steve, a 65-year-old man from Taunton, and his 9-year-old Vizslador dog, Bobby, shared a unique bond. Bobby was a beautiful brown mix of a Vizsla and a Labrador, with big, soulful eyes and boundless energy. From the time Bobby was a puppy, Steve had dedicated himself to her training. He had taught her around 15 hand signals to go along with the verbal commands, a skill that would prove invaluable in the years to come. Steve had always been a man of few words, but when he lost his voice due to a medical condition, the hand signals became their primary way of communication. Bobby seemed to sense Steve's condition and adapted flawlessly. She responded to Steve's every gesture, making their bond even stronger. Part 2, Daily Routine. Every morning, Steve and Bobby followed a routine. Steve would wake up, signal Bobby with a simple hand wave to come to him, and she would jump onto the bed, licking his face. After a quick cuddle, they would head to the kitchen. Steve would signal with a flat palm pointing downwards, and Bobby would sit patiently by her bowl, waiting for breakfast. After breakfast, they would go for a walk in the nearby park. Steve loved the fresh air and the sight of Bobby running around. Using his hands, he would signal for Bobby to fetch a stick or come to heel. Bobby loved these walks and always followed Steve's signals with enthusiasm. Part 3, The Garden Project. One day, Steve decided to start a garden project. He had always wanted to grow his own vegetables. He signaled Bobby to sit next to him while he planned the layout. With Bobby by his side, Steve began digging and planting seeds. Bobby watched attentively and sometimes helped by fetching tools that Steve pointed to. Over the next few months, the garden flourished. Steve and Bobby spent hours outside, enjoying the fresh air and working together. Steve would signal Bobby to stay out of certain areas to protect the plants, and Bobby obediently followed. The garden became a source of joy and pride for both of them. Part 4, The Unexpected Visitor. One evening, as Steve and Bobby were relaxing in their living room, there was a sudden knock at the door. Steve signaled Bobby to stay calm and approached the door cautiously. A young woman stood there, looking distressed. She explained that she had lost her dog and was searching the neighborhood. Steve signaled Bobby to follow him, and they both stepped outside. Using hand signals, Steve asked Bobby to help search for the missing dog. Bobby immediately picked up the scent and led them through the streets. After a while, they found a small, scared dog hiding under a bush. The woman was overjoyed and thanked Steve and Bobby profusely. Part 5, A Quiet Victory. As the months passed, Steve and Bobby's bond grew stronger. They developed an understanding that went beyond words. Steve felt grateful for Bobby's companionship and intelligence, and Bobby seemed to sense his gratitude. Their lives were filled with quiet victories, a well-trained dog responding to hand signals, a flourishing garden, and the joy of helping a neighbor in need. For Steve and Bobby, the silence spoke volumes, and their unique bond was a testament to the power of love and understanding. Part 6, Winter Adventures. As winter approached, Steve and Bobby's routine adapted to the colder weather. Despite the chilly air, they continued their morning walks, with Steve bundled up in a thick coat and Bobby wearing a warm dog sweater. The frost-covered park was a different kind of beautiful, and Bobby loved playing in the snow. Steve used hand signals to direct her through the snowy trails, and she responded with her usual enthusiasm. One particularly cold day, they stumbled upon a group of children trying to build a snowman. Bobby bounded over to them, wagging her tail. Steve signaled to the children, indicating that Bobby was friendly. The children laughed as Bobby helped them by nudging snowballs into place with her nose. Steve smiled, feeling a warmth that had nothing to do with the weather. Part 7. The Search and Rescue. One evening, as the snow fell heavily, Steve received a call from the same young woman they had helped before. Her dog had gone missing again, and she was desperate. Steve signaled Bobby to get ready, and they set out into the night, braving the freezing temperatures. The town was quiet and covered in a thick blanket of snow. Steve and Bobby moved quickly, with Bobby following the scent trail through the dark streets. After an hour of searching, Bobby led Steve to an old shed on the outskirts of town. Inside, they found the lost dog, cold but safe. The woman was overjoyed and thanked Steve and Bobby once again for their help. Part 8. A New Friend. One day, while visiting the local pet store to pick up supplies, Steve noticed a notice board filled with community events. There was an advertisement for a dog training class, specifically for advanced commands. Steve thought it would be a great way to bond further with Bobby and meet other dog owners. They attended the first class, and Bobby quickly became the star pupil. Steve used his hand signals to guide her through the exercises, impressing the instructor and other participants. Over the next few weeks, they formed a close-knit group with other dog owners, sharing tips and stories. Bobby even made a new friend, a golden retriever named Max. Part 9. The Heartfelt Reunion. One spring afternoon, Steve and Bobby were walking in the park when they spotted an elderly couple sitting on a bench, looking sad. As they approached, Steve recognized them from their neighborhood. They had lost their dog recently and were heartbroken. Steve signaled Bobby to sit by the couple, and she seemed to sense their sadness. She gently placed her head on their laps, offering comfort. The couple smiled through their tears, grateful for the unexpected kindness. Steve wrote a note explaining Bobby's training and how she could understand hand signals. The couple was inspired and decided to adopt a new dog, hoping to train it in a similar way. Steve and Bobby offered to help, and over the next few months they worked together to train the new addition to the couple's family. It was a rewarding experience for everyone involved. Part 10. A Lasting Legacy. As the years went by, Steve and Bobby continued their adventures, helping neighbors, making new friends, and enjoying each other's company. Their bond, built on trust and understanding, was unbreakable. Steve often thought how lucky he was to have Bobby by his side, especially when words were no longer an option. They became well known in their community, and people would often stop to watch Steve and Bobby's seamless communication. Their story inspired others to train their pets with hand signals, fostering a deeper connection with their furry friends. In the end, Steve and Bobby's legacy was more than just their adventures. It was the love and understanding they brought to everyone they met. Part 11. The Art of Communication. One summer afternoon, Steve decided to take up painting. He'd always admired art, but never had the time or patience to try it himself. With Bobby by his side, he set up an easel in the garden, gathered some paints, and began his new hobby. Bobby sat next to him, watching curiously as Steve made brushstrokes on the canvas. Steve soon discovered that painting was a relaxing and enjoyable way to express himself. He would often signal Bobby to bring him different colors or brushes, and she happily obliged. As weeks passed, Steve's garden became filled with vibrant paintings of landscapes, flowers, and, of course, Bobby. Their art sessions became a daily ritual. Steve's paintings began to attract attention from friends and neighbours, who admired his talent and the seamless way he communicated with Bobby. Some even suggested he hold a small exhibition. Part 12. The exhibition. Encouraged by his friends, Steve decided to organise a small exhibition of his paintings. He chose the community centre as the venue and invited everyone from the neighbourhood. Bobby was the star of the show, wearing a special collar with a small bow. The exhibition was a success. People marvelled at Steve's artwork and the unique bond he shared with Bobby. They were fascinated by how Bobby understood Steve's hand signals and assisted him in his daily activities. Steve felt a sense of pride and accomplishment, knowing that his art and Bobby's training had brought so much joy to others. Part 13. A health scare. One morning, Steve woke up feeling unusually tired and short of breath. He signaled Bobby to fetch his phone, and with great effort he managed to call for help. Bobby stayed by his side, sensing something was wrong. Steve's doctor diagnosed Steve had Marfan syndrome, which meant he had a faulty valve in his heart. But at the moment it wasn't serious enough to be operated on, so Steve was told to rest and not exert himself, and to just take things easy. Part 14. Resilience. Steve, from then on, took things easy and didn't overexert himself with anything. With Bobby's companionship, Steve found the motivation he needed to carry on each day and enjoy Bobby's company. They would go to the park each day, so they both got some exercise and fresh air. Steve would practice his hand signals while Bobby kept watch and obeyed the commands. When it was time to go for short walks, Bobby stayed close, matching Steve's slower pace and encouraging him with her loyal presence. Part 15. An unexpected challenge. One afternoon, as Steve and Bobby were enjoying a walk in the park, they noticed a commotion near the pond. A young boy had fallen in and was struggling in the water. Without hesitation, Steve signaled Bobby, who sprang into action. She dived into the pond and swam to the boy, gently guiding him to the edge where bystanders helped pull him out. Steve felt a surge of pride as the boy's parents thanked him and Bobby. It was a reminder of how strong their bond was and how they could make a difference, even in unexpected situations. Part 16. A new journey. As time passed, Steve fully recovered from his surgery, and his bond with Bobby grew even stronger. They continued their adventures, but now Steve had a new goal: to help others like him who had lost their ability to speak. He decided to start a small group in his community for people to learn how to train their dogs using hand signals. The group met every week in Steve's garden, where he demonstrated the signals he had taught Bobby. People were inspired by Steve's story and Bobby's responsiveness. The group grew quickly, and soon they had a dedicated space at the community centre for their meetings. Part 17. The celebration. To celebrate the success of the training group, Steve organised a community event. There were demonstrations by the group members and their dogs, games, and a small exhibition of Steve's paintings. Bobby, of course, was the star of the show, showcasing her skills and bringing smiles to everyone's faces. As Steve looked around at the happy faces and wagging tails, he felt a deep sense of fulfillment. The journey he had taken with Bobby had not only healed him, but had also brought joy and support to others. He knew that there were many more adventures ahead, and with Bobby by his side, he was ready for whatever came next. Part 18. A visit to the countryside. Steve packed a bag, signaled Bobby to hop into the car, and they set off on their adventure. The drive was scenic, with rolling hills and green fields stretching as far as the eye could see. Bobby enjoyed the ride, sticking her head out of the window and letting the wind ruffle her ears. When they arrived at George's farm, Bobby leapt out of the car, barking excitedly. George and his wife, Emily, welcomed them warmly. The farm was a peaceful haven, with animals grazing and birds chirping. Steve and George spent the afternoon catching up, while Bobby explored the farm, making friends with the animals. Steve used hand signals to direct Bobby, and she followed him around, helping with small tasks like fetching tools and herding sheep. Part 19. New Friendships. During their stay, Steve and Bobby formed a special bond with the farm animals. Bobby became particularly fond of a playful lamb named Daisy. She would chase Daisy around the fields, and Daisy would nudge Bobby affectionately with her nose. Steve couldn't help but smile at their antics. Emily, who was a talented baker, taught Steve how to make bread. They spent evenings in the cozy farmhouse kitchen, kneading dough and baking loaves. Bobby would lie by the fireplace, content and tired from her day's adventures. Part 20. Saying Goodbye. After a week of relaxation and new experiences, it was time for Steve and Bobby to return home. They said their goodbyes to George, Emily, and the farm animals. Bobby seemed reluctant to leave her new friends, but obediently followed Steve to the car. As they drove back, Steve reflected on the wonderful time they had spent at the farm. He was grateful for the memories they had created and looked forward to more adventures with Bobby. Their bond had only grown stronger, proving that even in silence their connection was unbreakable. Part 21. An Unexpected Guest. One rainy evening, as Steve and Bobby were relaxing in their living room, there was a sudden knock on the door. Steve opened it to find a young woman standing there, drenched from the rain. She introduced herself as Lucy, a traveller who had lost her way. Steve, being the kind-hearted person he was, invited her in. He signalled Bobby to bring her a towel, which she did with her usual efficiency. Lucy warmed up by the fireplace and shared stories of her travels. Bobby sat by her feet, listening intently. Part 22. A New Adventure. Over the next few days, Steve and Bobby helped Lucy get back on her feet. They showed her around the town and introduced her to their friends. Lucy was amazed by Bobby's intelligence and the way she responded to Steve's hand signals. One day, Lucy suggested they go on a small trip together. Steve agreed, and they set off to explore a nearby forest. Bobby led the way, sniffing out trails and finding hidden paths. They discovered a beautiful clearing with a small pond where they decided to have a picnic. Part 23. The Hidden Treasure. While exploring the forest, Bobby stumbled upon an old rusty box buried under a tree. Steve and Lucy dug it up and found it was filled with old coins and trinkets. It seemed like someone had hidden it there long ago. They decided to take the box to the local museum to see if they could learn more about its origins. The curator was fascinated by the discovery and promised to investigate further. Steve, Lucy, and Bobby felt a sense of excitement, knowing they had uncovered a piece of history. Part 24. Saying Goodbye. After a few weeks, it was time for Lucy to continue her travels. She thanked Steve and Bobby for their hospitality and promised to keep in touch. Steve signaled Bobby to give Lucy a farewell gift, a small painting he had made during their time together. As Lucy drove away, Steve and Bobby stood on the porch, waving. They felt a little sad, but grateful for the new friend they had made and the adventures they had shared. Part 25. A Community Effort. Back in town, Steve and Bobby decided to get involved in a community project to renovate the local park. They spent their weekends planting trees, painting benches, and cleaning up the area. Bobby became the project's unofficial mascot, bringing tools and offering moral support. The park soon became a beautiful place where families could gather and children could play. Steve felt a great sense of pride in their work, knowing that they had made a positive impact on their community. Story written by Copilot AI. Image created by Designer AI. To read all the stories in full, please go to www.steveuk.blog. Thank you. Hello, this is Steve. If you enjoyed the story, please would you take the time to leave a meaningful comment and click on the like icon. If you want to know when the next story has been uploaded, please click on the notify bell icon to be notified. If you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel and tell your English learning friends so they can benefit too. Thank you.